Hey everybody, welcome to today's episode of Electric Cafe. Today's video is about Moby, Richard Hall, as he's also known as. Wow, this could be a long video, so I apologize in advance. A lot of my videos are long, and I apologize for that, but the reason why I'm doing that is I like to encompass as much as my experience with the artist, talking about as much as I can remember at the time. I don't generally plan out what I'm going to say or what I'm going to talk about. It just kind of comes off the top of my head, and whatever comes off the top of my head is maybe what I'm thinking about, of course, at the time. But it's just it's just kind of maybe what's important to me or what comes up to mind when I think about it. I generally do videos on the cusp and just do a video versus planning it out. I don't necessarily like to plan it out because when I plan out stuff, it doesn't feel like it's genuine, and I just feel like I'm reading a script. And if I forget something, it is what it is. I can't cover everything in one video on some of these artists that I really like, and that I'm doing individual videos on. But this could be a long video because I have a lot to say about Moby, and we've had a long experience with each other, with his music and my past, and it feels like a long lost relationship, love and hate, for the good and the bad, as those who know Moby and like his music. Maybe not always like the direction that he goes, but I think as you grow older, you have a different respect for people and their artistic vision and things like that. And it's a coincidence that I'm wearing my Instinct Ambient shirt today, which is Moby's first label he was on. I mean, it's a combination of. He was actually on two labels at this first release, but one of them was Instinct. But Instinct is what he was most known for before he went to Elektra and eventually his own label. But wow, what a video this is going to be. A lot of stuff. Moby was one of the first artists I really got into, like 91, 92. I remember when not necessarily Go, I wasn't there exactly when Go came out, but when his self-titled album Moby came out, and then his one of my favorite works of his is Ambient, and then into Everything Is Wrong right here in 95, and through his punk rock stage and through his ambient stage, and then and into sort of becoming a rock band in a way, and him singing a lot more, and then him going back to electronica, and then really embracing what he does best in ambient music, and then sort of having some new life with some good down tempo and mix of rock music. There's certainly some good music here and there for sure. And then probably to doing more music with other people with this new album, which I don't necessarily not a big fan of from what I've heard. And but he's gone through a lot of different gone through the rave days and being a DJ. Well, actually, before that, of course, he has a rock background from being in, I think it was the Vatican Commandos, I think it was the rock band, probably like punk band, like 83 or 84. I think he may have had one record and maybe a promo or something like that, and then I think he moved to Connecticut, sort of, was DJing, started to DJ a lot in New York, and actually around town and stuff like that. And then I think he started DJing at like things like the Limelight and big clubs in New York, probably in 88, 89, sometime in there. And then of course he had the groundbreaking track with Go and God, it's been so long since I remember. Is that 1990 or 91? And then he had a string of really classic kind of ravey sounds under different names, and he's touring a lot, becoming a household name. And then he really started to get deeper with his music and writing soundtracks and soundtrack type music. He's always had like a melancholy feel to his music. But still embracing the dance music that he became known for. And then he kind of went back into rock music and just had a huge popularity, a couple tiers of popularity with Everything Is Wrong on a national level, and then a superstar level would play, and then he's kind of always been kind of settled, but always been pretty strong, and releasing his own music on his own label, and being involved with everything artistic about his label and how it's presented. And I know he owns some things like some vegan restaurants, and he's definitely a vegan promoter, and still doing a lot of soundtracks, and he does a lot. He puts out a lot of music, which is cool. If you really, really, really like Moby, then you're happy with that. I would say I'm when it comes to Moby, I'm probably like an 8 out of a 10 fan. There probably used to be a time when I was a 9 or a 10. Now I'm kind of like an 8. But I love his old music, but I just, some of his new stuff, after Play, it was just kind of, or when Play came out, it just wasn't for me. It was too mainstream, too popular, all the songs were used in commercials and stuff like that. It was just very, and I'm not saying it was bad music at all. I'll play, I should play. I play. I haven't played Play in probably once in the last 20 years. I have played it once in the last 20 years. I remember it was a couple years ago. And, I brought back all these memories of hearing some good songs on there. But it's a combination. There's too many songs on there, and you just kind of know them. And there's a couple that you're like, oh, okay, yes, this is a good song. Okay, it's just kind of too straightforward, but a little too not really atmospheric and stuff like that. But I'd rather talk about the good Moby stuff, and going all the way back to Time's Up, which is, I believe it's his first record. It was under the Brotherhood. It was called Time's Up. It's not really a dance song. It's kind of a unique song, especially for the time. I'm surprised it really got released as a single. It's not really a techno track. It's kind of, I don't know, maybe like Cabaret Voltaire or something like that. It's just very, it's just kind of there's quite a few mixes on here. There's a radio edit, a dust mix, a acapella, deep mix, dope mix, bonus beats. It's almost like it's surprised that this is like sort of under his name, because it's sort of said instruments is Moby, but vocals is somebody else, which I think is a sample, and it's sort of under Brotherhood, and it's produced by a different person. So this is not really a name that Moby used. I think he only used it on one other track, the Brotherhood, if I'm not mistaken. And I might be getting confused with Barracuda, because this could be the only track that he used under this. But this is under Low Spirit Records and Instant Records. Low Spirit Records was Westbaum's label, if I'm remembering correctly. I'm just kind of going off the top of my head here. It's been quite a few years. Low Spirit was a Belgian label, probably that started in like 87, 88, and started with new beat and techno, and had a lot of success through the 90s. It could be a German label, or it could be Belgian. I want to say it's a Belgian label. It could be a German though, but this record is manufactured in Germany, so it could be German. In fact, now that I think about it, I think Westbaum was German. But this is kind of going back to early 1990 right here. Instinct Records, this is the old logo here. And again, this is a subgenre. Instinct Ambient was the ambient subgenre or sublabel they started in like I don't know, maybe like 94 or 93 or something like that. But that's the old school Instinct label right there. And then I'll show you what it kind of became. But there's the old handprint, Instinct. But Instinct was so important for my youth. I just they distribute. They must have had. There's a couple labels back in like 90 to 93 that had fantastic distribution, and Instinct was one of them. They were solely responsible for well, maybe not solely, but there is probably a good 7 or 8 favorite electronic labels of all time that, not the top 8, but certainly probably easily in the top 20 that I first heard from just being distributed by Sonic. I mean by Instinct, through their compilations and what have you, where it come from Pod Communications or Rising High or Fax Communication or there's just so many labels that were distributed by Instinct, and I was so thankful. I'm such a big fan of Instinct. I still have, there's a kind of over here, that's an Instinct poster over there of Plug It and Turn On 1, if you know that compilation from '94. Yeah, I've always been a huge Instinct fan, and Moby left Instinct right before this album. Well, I'd say maybe a year and a half before that album, probably like after '93, when he went to Elektra Records. But this is kind of a not necessarily a great track here, but an important pickup for if you're a Moby fan like I am. As you'll see, I have quite a lot of his early stuff. Here's one of his best records, in my opinion. This has Mobility, and it does have Go on the other side. Time signatures are like, if you guys don't know Moby's early career from like 91 to 93, there's some fantastic different kind of rave kind of, some are kind of piano house, and some are kind of deep techno, and some are kind of dark, and some kind of just kind of ravey and stuff like that, and there's a lot of ambient in there, of course. But Time Signature is great. I mean, there's Mobility, and then Mobility the remix. This is probably one of his most I wouldn't say important records, but this is his first record where he got like kind of like more mellow on. Go was a part of that. I mean, the remixes of Go are ravey, but the original is tend to more on the kind of subliminal, kind of ambient techno in a way. And Mobility is just one of his great early tracks. And this is I think there's 2 pressings of this: the UK pressing, and I think this is the American pressing. It's got the Instinct handprint on it there. Great record. And Taylor Dupree, who's in SETI and 12K Records, and just a super important artist for the time. He did all the artwork for all these early Instinct logos and fonts and stuff like that, and they were pretty good about kind of carrying on this kind of font. I have the 2 sub-labels that have similar font. It's Liquid Music, and there's also Sonic Records. It's somewhat tied to Instinct Records for me personally. This one's Brainstorm, Rock the House. Great rave track here. Piano, Move the Colors, super cool. He did that a lot. Like, I really liked when he kind of spoke over the records, like in Heaven, if you guys know Heaven. Rock the Colors is another one. He just kind of had this kind of spooky kind of DJ voice. It was just like rock the house, or no, move the colors. Just super cool. Rock House is on the other side. Help Me to Believe. It's a little redundant, but 6.5 minutes. But it's got a really cool loop, and that comes from his first album, Go. Of course, at the same time he was not Help Me to Believe, but there was 2 songs, Slight Return and can't remember another song. It's from the '92 album, I think. I think it's Slight Return and Yeah. I think those are featured on the Cool World soundtrack that had like David Bowie and the Cult and My Life with Thrill Kill Cult, and Moby was getting into the soundtrack early on, and I mean, this is the great rave 3 EP, but this helped me to believe it is from that from the Moby self debut album. And also during this time, this next couple of years, like Moby was deep in the remix game. Like he was, remixing some excellent stuff, even by as early as like '91. I could think of his remix of Shaman. I think it was called "Make It Up" or "Make It Happen" or something like that. "Make It Up," I think. His remix of Pet Shop Boys' "Miserableism" was fantastic. His Speed Jack mix of Orbital. I think it was Fahrenheit. Of course, he remixed Stella by Jan and Spoon, which is a huge track. He remixed some Erasure. He remixed the other two, which was a couple of people from New Order. I did have. Thought I had. Here's Fractal Zone. His amazing remixes. I touched on this. I did a review on this actually yesterday when I pulled this out while I was doing my Brian Eno's video, and this kind of made me want to do the Moby video today too. But excellent remixes on here. 6 different remixes he did on this track, and all of them are excellent. A couple, 3 of it's kind of like three different ones, and then 2 different versions. Or excuse me, there's seven. There's 3 different versions, 3 different songs, 3 different versions with 2 versions each, and then one kind of more ambient track, or one different track, I should say, one different remix. But there's some other ones I'm blanking on that he remixed during the time. Just I think even he did Michael Jackson, and you just knew that early on Moby was going to be huge. He was so talented and so, especially for an American producer, like he was just leaps and bounds ahead of on the national stage of being known as early. And I don't really know if Really Even Go made that happen. It wasn't like a one hit and then he was like huge. Like he was big from everything. Probably, something like this probably sold 5,000 copies. On the underground, Brainstorm, something like that. And that wasn't even one of his more successful ones. That was probably one of his least successful ones early on. So kind of going on. So, if I was to guess, in 1992, that year, this probably sold 10 to 20,000 records, probably somewhere in that, maybe a little bit more. Be interesting to see some of the numbers on that. Again, I'm pretty sure Taylor Dupree did the artwork on this, but I have to double check. But kind of still doing that kind of bubble writing. Moby was just huge in this period, and this is a really good album. Still, I still really enjoy this album. I'm sure there's some rave tracks on here. You got the rave singles. You got Drop a Beat. Next is E. You got Go. And then it's Ah, and then Yeah is on Cool World soundtrack. But so you have the big 3 tracks right there, but then everything is really good. I really like Electricity. Mercy is good. Help You to Believe. I spoke about that. Slight Return in the Stream and the album on 2 really nice ambient tracks. This is still a really good listen. This is very straightforward techno for the time. But I would argue when you compare this to something else that came in '92, this still holds up very well, especially in electronic music. I'm trying to compare something that I don't think Underworld had an album in '92. Prodigy wasn't necessarily comparable. I guess I could compare it to like Orbital's Green album, because this came out before the Brown album, but it came after the Green album. This is better than the Green album. Orbital, in my opinion. It's not better than the Brown album by Orbital, but it's a good album. But you know, if you like Moby, you really like Moby. I like, and people that don't like Moby, they really don't like Moby. But I think everybody would say, if you've been into rave music for 35, 40 years, then there's Moby tracks you like. You just can't deny that he was he did some great music. You know, I mean, just in multiple genres. I really still love this full length album. Still a really good album. And then you kind of come with some of the singles. Here's next is the E CD single. If you guys know the synth mix, man, that remix is hot. That's just, it really takes the I Feel It sample and the melody and really takes it to another level. The other remixes are cool too. I mean, one says cool world mix, so, you know, kind of tying together the movie of it. I don't think this song was necessarily on the movie, although it could have been squeezed it in there. Like I'm like 95% sure. Yeah, were the two tracks, but Next E could be on there as well, or maybe one of the two. I'm not like 100% sure. I do have the Cool World soundtrack somewhere over here next to probably I always, sometimes like with compilations and stuff, sometimes I put it in various, but I generally put it to what I remember most about that a lot of times, and the song I remember most from Cool World is the David Bowie Cool World track, which I really liked at the time, and so it's probably in the David Bowie section. There's a B-side on here called 1,000, and of course that was kind of famous for being in Guinness Book of World Records for the fastest beat, and of course that's easy to do, you know, with electronic music, but 1,000 beats per minute. And kind of a funny story. I entered in a DJ contest, and there was a lot of scratchers there, and this is sometime in like 94, 95 or something like that. And I just went up there and played this one track, and I didn't do anything else. And it was just kind of my way of saying fuck you. Because I was very, at that time I was very, I kind of did it as a joke, obviously, but I also did it to be like, fuck you, like this music's cool, and I don't care about your turntablism. I was into DJ mixing, and I'm not going to sit there and try to mix house records, 10 house records into 5 minutes. So I just played 1,000. It was just one track, and they pretty much like, after I didn't do anything for a couple minutes, they pretty much like pulled the plug on me, but that's okay because they got the point. And I took my CD and walked out of there. And they should have known when I didn't show up with any vinyl. Just showed up with the CD. But, you know, I thought it was funny. But this is one of the strongest earlier ones. I feel like I feel it. I really like this. When I compare like Go, Drop a Beat, and I feel it. Or next is the E. Excuse me. I always think of this track as I Feel It sometimes because there's the one remix called I Feel It, and I'm sorry, that's the remix I'm talking about. I Feel It is the remix where it takes out the I Feel It sample and go. The synth mix is good too, as well. But man, this was a huge track for the time. Next is the E, and this is before I knew what ecstasy was. You know, this is before the first club experience I had was in '92 in Florida, and I was on a beach rave, and I was 16, and I didn't know what any of those drugs were and stuff like that, and there was a lot of tracks back in 90, 91, 92, 93 that were talking about E and stuff like that, and I didn't necessarily know what they meant. I just thought it was like maybe a party expression or something like that, but I'm surely soon thereafter I knew what E was. But next is the E. It's a great track. Really, I mean, between Drop a Beat, Go, and I Feel It, it's really hard for me to rank the three. When you factor in all the remixes of Go, it's probably the best of the three. And if I had to pick like one track over out of the three, I would probably pick three or four Go versions before I would pick this I Feel It version. And if you guys know Drop a Beat, the deep mix of Drop a Beat is my favorite remix of Drop a Beat. And that's oh man, I just bummed when I feel like I missed something. I do have the Drop a Beat single, and I don't have it here, which is really strange because I haven't played that in a while. It's a bummer, but I'm sure it's in here somewhere. It's just I just moved 2 years ago, and this is probably the first time I'm going through my Moby CDs. But if you guys know, the Drop a Beat deep mix is really good. But just act like I'm showing you the Drop a Beat right now, because that's where we're at right now in this discography. Go remixes, Drop a Beat, next is the E, right after his self-titled album, right? And then you have, of course, here's Go. The top 10 UK Smash includes new mixes. And this one's really an excellent one to get. This one has the wood tick mix and the rainforest mix and the subliminal mix. That's three great versions right there. And here's again, they still haven't. It's still on the old Instinct label. Just a great old Instinct label logo. Just a great record. I mean, just you can't. Just amazing. Here's some more remixes of it. Mixes Go. This also has the rainforest video mix and the analog mix. I think this one came out, 1991. Outer Rhythm Records. This was on, so it was. So not only was it on Instinct, but I think Outer Rhythm reissued as well. There was another label that reissued Go as well, but Outer Rhythm's a really strong techno label from the early '90s, if you know. Moby Go, awesome. Also another one of that early period, Drunk Fits the Face by Barracuda. Such an amazing track. I remember I heard this live in 1993 in between 808 State and New Order concert at Hollywood Bowl. In between the two bands, I mean, I guess their tape, while they get ready, was playing Drunk Fits the Face by Moby, and I was like, oh, that was like the highlight of the show. Well, 808 State was really good. New Order wasn't very good because New Order sucks live. But I didn't realize it till that day. But I knew it from the. I knew. I'll say this. I knew New Order was not good live, and it was confirmed in that '93 show. But it was cool. They played this. That was like the highlight of the night because I loved this track that year. I have two versions. Here's the Instinct version, which I feel like is the version to get. The B-sides on it are great, and I think this is the only track under Barracuda, or the only EP under Barracuda. Party Time is such an underrated track for the time. And then you got the title track, Barracuda, Drug Fits the Face, and then the Drug Free remix. Awesome. And then this is the CT Records version. They reissued, or they distributed it. And this one's cool too because it has Drug Fit Face on the front, is on the first side still, Drug Free mix, same as on the other one, but the Mad Love remix. And this is the UK version here. So I would definitely recommend getting both. This is of all the probably, well, I wouldn't say all, but because there's a lot of his remixes that are very desirable, but this one is very desirable, becoming more and more desirable. Drunk Fits the Face, because it works great in a house and techno set. And then an amazing. I mean, he's just on a roll. That's already 4 releases in a single and a couple 4 EPs. I mean, Drop a Beat next to the E, Go, the full album. Plus Voodoo Child came out that year too. So he's just on a roll. Unfortunately, I don't have Voodoo Child on vinyl. Well, I mean, I have it on vinyl, but not the EP. So here's an amazing compilation. If you know, you know. If you want early Moby, there's 2 compilations to get, and this is the first one I want to show you. Let's see if I have the other one. Yeah, okay, I have that one. So this one, and you had to look a little bit closer to know that this was Moby. You know, I mean, it has the sticker here, but Instinct Danced, a collection of dance music from Instinct. Like, maybe that's why he left Moby, because it doesn't even really have his face on here, except for this promo sticker. Like, these are all Moby tracks, you know, and they're presenting it like they're different people, and that's kind of the I'm sure on the writing here it says this is Moby. You know, I'm sure they're not trying to fully deny it, but I should read. I don't think I've read this in a long time. This little opening thing here, but I wonder if they're really like acting like these are 4 different producers. You got Barracuda, Moby, Brainstorm, and Voodoo Child, which are all 4 monikers that Moby did rave under in the early days. And here's this little write-up here, and yeah, it looks like they're sort of putting this out as if they're 4 different producers. Huh? That's really funny. They're talking about like they're different people. Brainstorm kicks into high gear with techno anthems Rock the House, Move the Colors, and the brand new Drop a Beat. Finally, Voodoo Child rips the lid off the party with Voodoo Child's remix and the chilling techno groove of the brand new song Have You Seen My Baby. Until now, most of these tracks have been available only as 12 inches and limited copies. Finally together on this compilation, this collection of singles will take you on a journey through the cutting edge of dance music. Welcome to the uncompromising sounds of Instinct Records. Man, there's no mention of Richard Hall or Moby on here. That's funny. Maybe this is what this may have come out. I wanted to say this came out in 92 or 90, definitely came out in 92 or 93, but I wonder if this came out. I always thought this came out before Ambient album in 93, because this collected all his tracks from 90 to 91, 92. But maybe it did come out in 93, and this is what caused him to leave Instinct after the Ambient records, because, well, I'd be pissed if you took all my songs and you didn't mention me on the cover and just put me on the sticker and mentioned it like you were the title. That's kind of jacked up. But on here it says featuring the top 10 UK hit Go. I can't really necessarily see it because it has a sticker on it, but it looks like it says Moby under it right there. Plus songs from Voodoo Child, Barracuda, and Brainstorm. A 2-record set. So it's acting like maybe Go is under Moby and the rest of them aren't Moby. Really interesting. Oh yeah, well that makes sense. Yeah, because the Moby, Go and Mobility are from Moby. Okay, so they're acting like Moby's on here, and then these other tracks are from Instinct, from different artists, I guess. Interesting, but anyways, this double EP, double, it is just fantastic. I mean, this has all the early stuff. You got all the tracks I just already mentioned. Party Time, Drug Fits the Face. Bass to Me is one of my favorite songs from this period of Moby stuff. Then you got Go, Mobility, Rock the House, Move the Colors, Drop a Beat, Voodoo Child remix, Have You Seen My Baby. Just an amazing compilation. Just amazing. I was such a huge fan when these two came out. And here's the other one, which is funny because this is also on Instinct Records. And this one's called Early Underground, but this one is under Moby. And this one, I think this one also came out on vinyl as well, which I would still get if I had it because I love these songs so much. But it's pretty much like a carbon copy. It has a couple more songs, but it's pretty much a carbon copy of the other one. So it's got Bass to Me, Rock the House, Move the Colors, Party Time, Go, Voodoo Child, Drug Fits the Face, Barracuda, Mobility, but it adds a few more. So it adds UHF 3, which he did under UHF, which was another one of his techno monikers. Protect Right, Permanent Green, which is a great one. Time Signature, which was on the Mobility EP. Peace Head, which is a really good track as well. M4, which is very minimal, and then Barracuda. So I mean, between these two compilations, I mean, I would probably have to compare this and see. This one has Voodoo Child, this one has Mobility, this one has Go. These are a little bit different remixes of Go. Party Times on both, Drug Fits the Faces on both, Bass Me. So definitely, and this is on Instinct Records as well. So it's and I want to say this one's after it because this one doesn't have the older Instinct logo on it. So they may have made amends and decided to still do this one after for some reason. I want to say it's after. It's kind of, it doesn't have the handprint logo. It sort of has a very basic, just Instinct Records logo. But yeah, it's really interesting. Another great thing about the early EPs on here is when you read the other compilations on these, and I have a lot of these too. Talks about Moby's first release on here, Killer Techno Volume 2, Techno Sonic Volume 3, which I have most of the volumes of there. Kickin' Mental Detergent, which was from Kickin' Records. Or excuse me, it wasn't from Kickin' Records. Yeah, it was from Kickin' Records. Messiah, if you guys remember that. Witch Doctor 00, Scientist. Oh man, some old. Transformers 2, Dominatrix, Nico's, Church of Ecstasy, which is GTO, which is Lee Newman and Wells, and Rising High Techno Injection. You know, it's got Irresistible Force on there, Hypnotist. I mean, these are all distributed from Instinct. So, I mean, I didn't have to look far in the pre-internet days of where to find more good techno. I mean, it was right on the inside of the cover. And then the amazing Transfusion, which, I mean, I have it on a sealed cassette. I have 3 copies of the CD on there, and this is a great write-up on it. Techno Redefined, the latest sounds from the cutting edge, featuring trippy excursions into inner space with Orbital, Westbomb, Irresistible Force, Reality Studio, Nico, Paradise 3000, and more. Just an amazing compilation, but man, you just right away on the inside. Other titles available. I should have brought. I have some. I still have some old catalogs of. I probably have about like 5 or 6 old catalogs. Some of them are really nice. Some of them are color. This one doesn't necessarily have it, even though it's an Instinct one. So it's strange they put it on that one, but on the inside of the other one. But either one of these, great compilation. This one's a little bit better than Moby Early Underground. But this came out in 93. I remember getting this in the summer of 93. So this one probably came out a little bit earlier. But man, fantastic compilations. And then you have his one of my favorite records of his is just Moby Ambient. I still have 3 copies. I still need to get this on vinyl. I used to have it on cassette. That was my original copy, and then shortly after I got it on CD. And every once in a while, I pick up a copy because I know I've played this so much that, you know, if I see a copy for a couple of bucks, I'll buy another one. Still the old Instinct logo here. They're kind of going to that box shape, so this is kind of in between the old logo and the new logo. But, you know, this is kind of the tale of 2 halves. Like, the first half is fantastic on here. The second half you gotta get a little used to. It's a little minimal. There is one very redundant track. But, you know, I do like the experimentalism. But the first 5 tracks are amazing. My Beautiful Blue Skies, which the opening keyboard sound Just it's just it's up there with Being Boring by Pet Shop Boys with the greatest, my favorite keyboard intro of all time. It's just so beautiful, and the track, if you know My Beautiful Blue Skies, hard to not put in my top 5, top 10 of Moby tracks automatically. But even when thinking about all the music he's done, all the great music he's done, like that one has to be in the top 5, if not top 10. It just has to be in the top 5. I just can't imagine. And again, right back up right into Heaven, which is in my top 5 as well. So this probably features 2 of my favorite Moby tracks in here. Heaven is just an amazing track, very deep techno. Like it's like 8 or 9 minutes long. If you know it, you know it. But if I can explain it a little bit, it's pretty hypnotizing. It was kind of like the excuse me. It was kind of like the exact kind of like my definition of trance music at the time. Like you knew it was different than techno because you're hearing techno, and techno is. I mean, Moby's a perfect example. You listen to like UHF or Barracuda or Voodoo Child, and that's rave music. That's techno. Heaven was not that. Heaven was a lot closer to ambient. I mean, it's very hypnotizing, and that's where the trance came from. That's where anything that was sort of like 4-on-4 that wasn't house or rave was and it was sort of melodic that was tied to ambient was. They put it in the trance category. And that was kind of a really exciting genre, which unfortunately got destroyed by 95, 96 and became bastardized by tracks, although it's okay track, is like Children by Robert Miles. That was kind of like the end of trance as we knew it. I remember New Year's Eve, 1996, hearing Children on the dance floor. And people liked it, of course. I mean, it's a good track, especially for the time. But it sort of signaled the end. It sort of signaled the popularity that rave was unfortunately going to have to weather or feature or people are going to make. It just and it's not Robert Miles' fault. Rest in peace, Robert Miles. But it's not like he made that song to annoy everybody, but sometimes some songs get played too much, and then I think the alternate version of it was even more mainstream, and that was probably the bigger version. The original Platypus record, Dream of Children, just Children of the Dream. I just forgot the name of it. Or is it just Children? Anyways, whatever. But it's just Children, I think. But the original version is not as mainstream. But anyways, so Tongues and Jay Breeze, Myopia. Those 3 tracks, 2, 3, 4, 5, continue the kind of ambient, kind of melodic theme, and it's very minimal. This album is very minimal. And it's funny that he even called it ambient, because this is not really an ambient record. This is kind of more. I mean, there's really like maybe one song on here that doesn't have a beat. So I don't know. I mean, it's funny that he even called this minimal, because that's kind of the differences in those days. If something wasn't techno, it didn't, and it was like mellow, it was ambient, and if it wasn't hardcore rave, it was somehow trance, or it was just interesting times. Just the birth of a lot of subgenres were right on the cusp in '93, and that's when you kind of dive into hard. The rest of not hardcore and jungle were already out, but then you move into drum and bass and happy hardcore and Goa trance, and all the subgenres started coming out then. Here's another great insight here. I mean, this lists like 15 compilations on here of great stuff you can get. I probably have most of these. Killer Techno 1 and 2, Technosonic 1 and 2, Killer Mental Detergent 1 and 2, Chill Out, The Techno Evolution Continues, which is a super important record for me. Pod Pod Communications presents Adam Hart, so U Schmidt's on here. Liquid Music, the Future of House compilations, which was the sub-label of Instinct, the house side. Then you got some Moby stuff, Moby Ambient, which is obviously the album. Early Underground, which is the compilation, Moby's first record. But then you have some great techno records. Techno compilations, Technosonic Volume 1 and 2 and 3, which I mentioned, Transfusion, which I mentioned, Rising High, Techno Injection, which I mentioned, but also now the ESP, the Techno Trance compilations. So the label ESP, which was a great trance and techno label in the early 90s. If you guys know Nico and Night Tripper and Paradise 2001 and Time Warp, like, I mean, just from this, they're introducing me to ESP, Rising High, Belgian Trance, Supertronic Company, Slackjaw, Transformer 2, Belgian Trance, Pod Communications, Hardcore has Angaku, Data Side, which was into Fax. On the Fax label, Lisa Carbone, the Chill Out, which was Cosmic Baby, so there's MFS Records, there's Irresistible Force, also Moby, Channel X, Praga Khan, so Digital Orgasm, so, the Messiah, Eternal, it's just everything from hardcore to 140 plus BPM. That style, it was almost like a style back then because they had compilations of it. Killer Kick-In Records. They're just introducing me to all kinds of great stuff in 91, 92, 93. And this is kind of hitting the pinnacle around there. So thanks to Instinct Records, I knew about a lot of great German and Belgium and UK labels by the time I was like 16 or 17. I just had to expand upon there, and this Instinct was like a family tree. It was the beginning of a huge journey I was on. It was super important. It's just a great album. So important. I got to get 3 copies, right? And then you kind of literally, let's move on to the move. So then he's on Elektra Records. This is 93, so he left pretty quickly here. Right into Elektra Records. The title track is probably his last true rave techno trance song, in my opinion, from the early days. This is a very anthemic track. The move, the disco threat mix, I really liked. The B-sides aren't necessarily that great. The Rain Falls and the Sky Shutters is pretty good. I'm not a big fan of Unloved Symphony. Morning Dove is a pretty good song, and I was never really a fan of All That I Need Is to Be Loved. I've never really been a big fan of that. I think that actually comes from... is that on everything? Yeah, so that was on here. Which was strange that move didn't make... it was almost 2 years full later, but strange that move didn't really make that album if All That I Needed to Be Loved made it from the B-side. I guess just maybe Moby felt it for sort of fit that album mold a little bit better than Move, which I can see, but it's strange how there's like happy hardcore tracks on there, but not like a trance song. It's kind of, Move is interesting because it's kind of trancey, it's techno, in a strange way that it's kind of disco too. It's just very high energy. I love these, these are always nice, DG. You just kind of flip open the side and they open up. This one actually opened up to an additional one, so here it shows them kind of DJing there. Really cool cover. And this is why I always loved his logo as well. Moby. I always really liked the lowercase, slightly italics. I always thought that was cool. And right around now is then they introduced the Moby logo, which I always thought was awesome. I thought that was such a cool logo. back in the day. But fantastic little EP overall. I mean, Move is such a great track. Here's the record of Move. This has the MK Blades remix, which I think is Mark Kitchen from NK, if I'm not mistaken. The Disco Threat's on here also, the extra mix, and then You Make Me Feel Good is on here. But also the Moby subversion is really good, and then you have the radio edit. I'm not sure. I don't think this is really the promo, but I don't have the cover for it for some reason. I just say promo only on here for $9.99. $9.99. It's a great track though. Moving on. So then you have so I got the cassette. Here's Moby, Everything Is Wrong, my original cassette, and you knew he was going to be big when this album came out. Like I just knew he was going to be huge when this album came out. Shortly after this album, I saw a little write up in Newsweek. It was Newsweek or it was Time magazine. I think it was Time, and. In the back section of Time, there was always like a little one-pager that kind of did a couple little blurbs. And it had a little blurb about Moby's Everything Is Wrong album. And it had a picture of him, sort of, I think it was sort of this picture, or him underwater. It might be the underneath one, the one inside. I can't remember. I think it's probably from the album. Yeah, it's kind of. I mean, I want to say it's not any of these two pictures, but it's similar. It's kind of a famous picture, but it's kind of probably just an outtake at the same time, and maybe it's not famous, but it's just another picture that's involved in this where it shows him underwater. But anyways, for a techno artist to be in Time magazine and have a blurb in Time magazine. I'm not talking about like People or Spin or Rolling Stone. Like, he was in Time, so you knew he was going to be huge. And this was a solid record. My dad was a huge fan of Moby. I think of all the artists that were kind of more on the instrumental vein, Moby had to be my dad's favorite, and it was kind of impacted that way because there was so much Moby music to be had because he was releasing so much stuff in like a 5-6 year period, and a lot of it was all good dance music. But this really kind of set the stage for his career, right? I mean, he's doing ambient music here. He's doing kind of more band stuff. Of course, he did the Heat soundtrack, which had God Moving Over the Waters, and New Dawn Fades, which was his cover version of the Joy Division song, which is a really good version. A really good version, but yeah, this is a really good album. I think looking back on it now, it's a little bit flawed in some ways, but this is a reissue. One of the things I don't actually have on the original one. I used to have the CD. I don't know if this was ever originally released on vinyl when it came out. I would imagine it would. But these are during the dark years of vinyl for main albums. But he comes from the DJ culture, so this is 95, so vinyl is way out by 95, especially in America. But it is dance music, so maybe it is. But tracks, the track Hymn is, so I really like it, but I don't necessarily like the remixes. I know people rave about the Laurent Garnier Hymn mix. I think it's okay. But yeah, when you look at the tracks, there is some tracks where there are kind of some misses, I feel like. I really like Hymn. It's a really good 3-minute ambient opener. Feeling So Real is what it is. It's a good song. It's a happy, hardcore kind of jungle kind of beat with it's kind of some raga vocals on it and stuff like that, right? It's kind of jungle-y, kind of hardcore. It's not that bad. It's happy hardcore, whatever. But all that I need is to be loved is okay. You know, Let's Go Free. I don't really remember it offhand, but I don't think it's that great. It's probably okay. Every Time You Touch Me was kind of another kind of happy hardcore song, and it was okay. Bring Back My Happiness was very different than the remixes. This was okay. It's really about the more mellow songs on here, and that really ties to why I like Moby's mellow side and his ambient side so much better. If he's not going to do techno and some deeper kind of techno stuff or some ravey stuff, it's hard for the people to do rave stuff right now and make it sound fresh or make it almost sounds so nostalgic that it just doesn't work. It's really hard to make if you tried to make like a Hoover track right now and then brought it out, it's just the rave music was just a snapshot of a couple of years, which it's really hard to go back to and listen to music. Not that it's bad. I mean, you have great memories of that stuff, but if you heard something that was new trying to sound like that, I don't know how it always goes over. I've heard some stuff recently that I was like, oh, there's some good parts of it. The one thing I will say about the one specific record that I did hear that was nostalgic like that was really raving, but it was changing a lot. Like, it was going from house to techno to it was changing a lot. So it wasn't like overkill on one style, which I thought was the way they did it was a little unique. But again, I still wouldn't have bought the record, so that's kind of saying the most, I used to think of how I used to rate tracks that DJs would play. If I tolerated it, that means it was good. If I wanted to ask the DJ what track it was, then that was like the ultimate, because I would rarely ever do that, and that had to be that good. But and then would I buy it? Like that's those are like the ultimate levels of I'm sorry, I forgot the other one. Would I dance to it? So you tolerate it. You actually dance to it. You ask the DJ about it, and then you actually want to buy it. Those are kind of like 4 levels of what I used to kind of rank what a DJ would play. And then, of course, below that would be something I wouldn't dance to, or something I wish I could go up there and turn the speakers off. That was obviously the lowest. What Love? I don't really remember that one either, but it's all about the B-side. First Cool Hive is really cool. First Cool Hive is cool. Into the Blue, if you know, that one's really melancholy. And Anthem is a cool little ambient intro. Everything Wrong. Then God Moving Over the Face of the Waters, and When It's Cold, I Like to Die. Like, that B-side is amazing, but the first side is kind of a mixed bag. But that second side is awesome. Again, First Cool Hive and Into the Blue. Anthem. The title track, Everything Is Wrong, which is the weakest of the 6. God Moving Over the Waters, The Face of the Waters, and When It's Cold, I Like to Die. Amazing. Awesome B-side. And then you have the DJ, Evil DJ double CD mix. And basically it's him mixing a lot of the songs from Everything Is Wrong, all the remixes, into 2 really long mixes. One of them's 13 minutes, one of them's 14 minutes track. So if you love this album, this is a great companion to it, because he takes all the remixes, or most of the remixes from the EPs, and mixes them all together. So the first one says it's more hard techno, joyous anthems, and quiet ambience. The second mix is more New York hard house, groovy acid, and melodic trance. And it's all, it's all the tracks from there mixed into, I'm sorry, so it's not only that, but there's also other versions of ones that are on the EP. So like Anthem has a remix, Into the Blue has a remix. It also has the electro mix of Move, which is fantastic, which is, I think, is the best version of Move. but it doesn't have anything from the older stuff. It's all stuff from everything, and that's why the artwork is like how it is. And that's where the evil Ninja Moby. That was cool. So this is like 95, 96 remixed. Really cool. Very cool little compilation. And so yeah, here's speaking of those remixes, here's Moby Feeling So Real. You know? And the cool thing about this is again, this is way before internet. For sure, most people are using internet. Here's the first probably the first release that had the little idiot, the little Moby guy. I think this is the first release that shows that. The other cool thing is he brings out the last track. It's Every Time You Touch Me, which is going to be the next single. It has the remix parts on it. So what he did is he had a remix competition, and he let everybody have the parts of it, and whoever had the best, I think it was the top 3 people had the remixes, were on the remix album. He put the remix on there. I was like, wow, I wish I was doing that stuff I'd do. I said, that's pretty cool to have a remix and show up on Moby's. I'm going to do a research on this and see if those 3 people ever did anything else. I remember looking one time and I thought that one of them didn't do anything else, but I'll have to do that, look at it a little bit closer. But this has 2, 3, 4, 5, basically 6 remixes of Feeling So Real. And it has New Dawn Fades on here, and that's where it shows up on here. Westbound remix. Moby's dub version is good. But again, Moby's just on a roll with all these EPs. Just so much product coming out. Again, the great, he did it with all these. I don't have Into the Blue single. I have 3 of the 4 singles anyways, but here's the little Moby guy again. Kind of a different color combination. There's that signs from that logo thing is from the album. Nice job with the artwork. Still kind of keeping the theme. Always important. So the guys who made the remixes, right? Okay, so there was a UK contest winner and a US winner. So the UK contest winner was a guy named Jude Sebastian. The American contest winner was John Blackford. I don't recognize either of those names. Then you also have the New York Jungle mix and the Nah Feel mix, which I think is the better one. The Blue Light of the Underwater Sun, which is unavailable on the album, which is a special B-side. And then you have the Beatmaster 7-inch mix, which was a famous remix team. If you guys know Beatmaster's remix of Behind the Wheel by Depeche Mode. So yeah, and then you have coming over to another album, so another EP. I mean, Moby is not shy about putting out singles and getting them remixed and putting them out. And that was important to do. I mean, this is dance music, right? If he's known as a dance artist, it makes sense if he's going to do a song, have some people do remixes. This is great because it features Alone, which if I'm not mistaken, Alone was I have to. Alone's a real. I don't know if it's just featured on here. It might be on the compilation as well, but Alone is a really good ambient song. So who does the remixes? You got the extended remix, Paralels Disco remix. I can't remember that, but Josh Wheat remix and Junior Vasquez is on here. There's a couple other people, but it's kind of all over the place. The writing on here. Again with the little Moby guy. You're starting to promote the Please Don't Eat Animals. Start promoting the vegan thing that some people get a little annoyed by. Some people get a little annoyed by his vegan stuff and his political and some of his religious views. I don't necessarily have an opinion about it all. I mean, that's what he likes to do. He wants to promote, and yes, it has some issues that he stands on, and can't fault somebody for that. Use their platform to save animals. It's not a bad thing at all. Um, I think for some reason, just people get really annoyed by Moby, and I think it has to do with a little bit of his ego, because he does have ego. But then most successful artists have egos. I think most successful people do have egos. I mean, if you, I always say, ego is a form of, or is a ego is a part of being confident. If I'm confident in my music reviews or or with my taste in music or my knowledge in music or my knowledge in Moby's career, I'm gonna have I'm gonna have a strong opinion about it. I'm gonna feel a little egotistical about it. I mean, it's just, so there's nothing really wrong with that. I think just for some reason, when Play came out and he was doing rock music and this and that, like, it just kind of got a lot of the overexposure, and you just couldn't escape Moby for a couple of years there. It was just, but again, we're still building up to early in his career. I got this in 1996 when I was in Florida, vacationing, and I was in a record store, and this popped up, and I didn't know this was coming out. This is fantastic. This has some excellent, like, even though I had all that Moby stuff, like, this is still one of the most, I mean, it's a 2-set compilation. I've used this one so much, it's just like falling apart, and the CDs are probably thrashed and actually not in bad shape, but just these are the worst. If you guys know, like, these are the worst. These are the worst CD spines they ever came out with. It's the double flip out. Like, it never holds the second CD. It's just one of the worst CD designs ever. And then if you wanted to read it, and you're like, oh well, I just want to read the inside. I still gotta flip it open and just read the inside. Like, it was so freaking annoying. Like, it was a good idea. Oh, just flip it over and stay up. Those spindles never freaking stayed. So annoying. Not to mention these always breaking. But, that's why I mean, to go to like an ergonomics design of just the cardboard and, 2 flaps, and you can put like 2 CDs in, it was just like a game changer. They're still trying to use these plastic funky CD covers. Plastic covers is just annoying. So anyways, so the remix is on here. Fantastic. So you got the Voodoo Child, Poor in New York mix. So this is kind of collecting a lot of his early stuff in different remixes. Next is the E Club remix, Drug Fits the Face, Drug Free mix, which is on the record. Have You Seen My Baby? Baby mix. UHF is on here. Time's Up, which is interesting. The Dust mix makes an appearance on here. Drop a Beat the Deep mix. That's where I first heard the Deep mix. And again, it's even though I think I got the Drop a Beat a couple years after this, the actual single. I didn't get that one originally because this is where I first heard Deep mix. I'm assuming the Deep mix is also on the CD mix, but that remix is the remix for me when it comes to Drop a Beat. And then you got the Mobility Aqua mix. Oh, that is a great alternate version of Mobility. If you guys really like Moby and you know his Mobility mix, check the Aqua mix of Mobility. And then you have the synth mix of I Feel It, which is great. And then you have 1000. And then you have disc 2, which is I think it's like 12 or 13 or 14 mixes of Go mixed into a continuously mix that's 61 minutes long. And it's just all the mixes of Go that he did mixed into one mix. It's fantastic. It sounds like, it doesn't sound like you're listening, you don't get bored of it. There's so many different remixes of it, and it's such a great song that you don't get bored of it. You can see here's Instinct put this out, so who knows if it was done with his permission, but here's the final Instinct logo. Kind of hard to see there, but that's the right. Zoom on this is impossible, huh? There it is. Jeez, Zoom is horrible on here. So yeah, that's a great compilation. Kind of following that up, um, this compilation is a little bit more on the popular side, but I was buying everything Moby then. I think this might came out a couple of years later. It's probably like 98 or 99, but it's still before Play. It's just called Moby Songs. You can see it's more from mainstream for sure on this. You got, but it's got it's got most of his big hits from that point. It's got First Go Live, Go, Into the Blue, Move, I Like to Score, which is meaning I like to score movies. Anthem's on here, Hymns on it, Feeling So Real, Gotta Move Out of the Waters, Alone's on here. So Alone's on here as well. So Alone's probably most known for being a B-side to Bring Back My Happiness, but it's such a good song. You can see he put it on kind of a greatest hits. You can see how much he liked it as well. And then it's got The Sky Shudders. That one's good. When It's Cold, I Like to Die, Living, and Grace, which are two new songs at the time. And this one says 1991 to 1997. Looks like kind of a compilation. And then one of his last, what I feel is his last great 90s output is The End of Everything, ambient album under Voodoo Child. This has 7 songs: Patient Love, Great Lake, Gentle Love, Honest Love, Slow Motion Suicide, Dog Heaven, and Reject. Dog Heaven was a single from here. Slow Motion Suicide is one of my favorite Moby songs of all time. Hard not to put that in top 5. But the other songs are just like these 6 to 10 minute long, just have a beat and just some really mellow Moby melody on top. Just very soothing. An amazing CD to go to sleep to. Very underrated. I think they need to bring it on vinyl. I don't think it's ever been on vinyl. An amazing. If you like Moby on his more ambient, somber side, and you don't have End of Everything by Voodoo Child, you gotta get this. This is an amazing listen. So peaceful. Don't expect anything to be wild on this. After a hard day and turn off all the lights, put this on and lay down in your bed, give it an hour, turn off your phone. You will dive deep into why Moby can be on like a spiritual level, on a deeper emotion level than most artists. It's almost hard to describe Moby's somber side, because Moby is, he started out religious. I don't know if he's still Christian or what, but I know deep down I'm sure he's, because I'm religious, I'm sure you can't get too far away from starting out religious, and then you can't just put aside and say, I'm not going to be religious anymore for the rest of your life. Like, once it's part of you, it's part of you. And I can't imagine if he has deep convictions that as he gets older, that he doesn't feel like he come back to what he felt when he wrote things like this, artistically and also personally. These are such moving songs. Like, I think if there was any one song, any album that you'd want to play at your funeral, I mean, this is that somber. I wouldn't say it'd bring you to tears, but Slow Motion Suicide, that song can bring you to tears, brings me to tears. It's not, none of these songs are like, these are deeply moving songs. They're not necessarily powerful, but they're very minimal, very subliminal. I wouldn't say subliminal because they are what they are. They're very simple songs, but they just hit you in the heartstrings. It's just very solemn, very beautiful, very basic. They sound like hymns. They remind me of My grandmother, when I was really young, she used to play this, and I have a couple of their records, and actually it's funny, and I do have their cassette right here because I was talking about it with a friend. Um, this is an old group called Haven of Rest. This is probably like 1980 or 81. My grandmother used to play this when I would go over her house and I'd sleep in the bed next to her when I was like 5 or 6 years old. After my grandfather passed away in '83. Well, it might have been 6 or 7, but it's all around in that time. But I can remember he wasn't there, so it must have been my grandfather passed away like 5 days before my 7th birthday. And I'll never forget the day we were coming back from Knott's Berry Farm, and my grandma was at our house, which was odd because it was like 9 or 10 in the morning. We went to Knott's Berry Farm, the whole family and I, and I remember that day like it was yesterday. Just very sad news that my grandmother had to tell my father that his dad passed away. But this, I remember spending a lot of time over my grandmother's, just like I'm spending a lot of time over my mom's since my dad passed away a few months ago. Kind of a similar thing, just spending time with family after somebody passes away. And I stayed the night over, in the bed next to her, and she had 2 single beds, and in between there was a desk with a little cassette player, and she would play this cassette. And yeah, this Haven of Rest. It's very, very moody, somber. It's meditative, but it's also solemn, and there are hymns, and there's not too much talking. It's been a while since I've heard it, but in a way, it kind of reminds me of this. And I just happen to think of this now since it was, since I'm thinking of music that's very solemn, and then the spiritual tie to Moby, Haven of Rest. Kind of has that, and this is obviously a little bit more organ than electronic music per se, but yeah, this was a very moving cassette, and I remember listening to that and really being moved by that, and that probably helped inspire me listening to music for the last 40 years when I go to bed, and that kind of, just kind of ambient music that I've always gone to bed to. But when this came out in '97, this is one of my favorite CDs to fall asleep to. Just a great CD. Great release. Very underrated, too. I have 2 versions of the single off that, so it's Dog Heaven. You got the Lopez mix, which is a name he recorded under just for a couple. I think just for this remix, and then maybe 1 EP that he recorded under Lopez. You also have the extended mix and the long mix, which is kind of funny because I think the original song was like 9 mix, so I can't remember quite, but it'd be funny to think of an extended mix and a long mix when it's already 9 minutes long, right? And there's the 2 CD versions there. Just to, he's continuing with that kind of graphics, right? This Trophy label is what he recorded on in like 96, 97. It was a very short-lived record. I don't know if he owned Trophy Records or not, but that was like the Lopez remix that I have here, or this release, and then a couple other he released on Trophy Records, and that was, I think only Moby was on there, so I'm not sure if he owned it or not, but yeah, good CD mix here. Ended up getting 2 copies. And then kind of finishing up that period of time. Here's All That I Needed to Be Loved. And this has some of the remixes on here. Eddie Flash's Folks, the Detroit legend, is on here. And then the Moby Dub version. And then on the other side is the vocal dance disco mix and the speed trance mix. So yeah, I don't like the original very much, but this remix is strong. Looks like I got it for $3 at the time. I'm not sure. Probably got this maybe 15 or 20 years ago. This is one that I didn't get originally. but some cool remixes. This is also one I didn't get originally, also because I had it on CD, but I eventually picked it up. This has most of the same mixes: Paralost Disco mix, the extended, and the Josh Wink mix. I think this one adds the underground interpretation mix, but this is Bring Back My Happiness. And then lastly, from that period, is the hymn. So, boom, there's the Moby, the cool Moby logo in all its glory. This includes the Laurent Garnier mixes, which is a very popular remix of Moby track that the amazing Laurent Garnier did. I'll probably end up doing. I'll have to write that down because I will do a video on Laurent Garnier. Yeah, I can't read the other remixes, but it is what it is. But yeah, I'm not as big as other people are on this remix, but I can see why. It's definitely a banger. I do like the original version of him. So around this time, we're up to about 96, 97. I got a chance to see Moby for the first and only time in concert at wasn't Electric Daisy Carnival. It was in the Orange Show. It was 1997. It was I think it was the first Nocturnal Wonderland, or maybe it was the second. But it was one of the best shows that I ever witnessed. We were in the main tent, and there was Donald Glaude in another room, I remember, and who was a DJ from Seattle, and who was a regular DJ in Southern California. Southern California had a lot of mixers from. I mean, I'm going to throw some names out there, and for you guys old school ravers, especially from LA, you guys will remember these names. So, Doc Martin, Jason Blakemore, DJ Trance, Thomas Michael, Onions, Steve Loria was a regular. Doc Martin, Yano, Garth, Harkus Brothers, Onions, Theo, DJ Tron, Juan Nunez. There's some other ones, some more hardcore ones I remember, like DJ. There's 3 initials I'm missing. Is it? Oh shit, it's gonna bother me, but I always like to be thorough on anything. But there's some other ones I'm forgetting too, but those are, I said Steve Loria, Mark Farina, of course, Mark Farina was right there. Marcus Wyatt was a Los Angeles native. But Donald Glaude was a regular down in the South too. And then, of course, Kyoki. Those are a lot of legendary, of course, Jason Bentley from, that's DRC was the one I was trying to think of, DRC initials. But those are a lot of the big names that were continuously on ravers. DJ Dan, of course. Simply Jeff, another one. Yeah, I could sit here and rattle off a lot of them for quite a bit, but that's probably 20 names right there. And so, yeah, a couple of those names were at the concert, but it was main stage, and it was. I guess I just felt like mentioning a lot of the great DJs from those times. A lot of them were at that show, just in the other tents. So the main tent, it was such an amazing video, amazing event. So I went there with a couple friends, and I took my friend Chris, who it was his first rave. So he was kind of like blown away. He was more of a hip hop guy, but he liked when I played him like electronic music too. Like, he was cool. He was really into Depeche Mode and certain stuff, but he was kind of getting into the rave a little bit, but he was deep into it that time, thanks to some funny stuff He was pretty into it. But yeah, that night, so it was in the main room. I was sitting up front, and it was Joey Beltram had just was playing records, and he put on Energy Flash, and I was standing right in front of him when he played Energy Flash, and that was a great moment because that was such a historic track. Even even up to 1997, that was such a historic track for me. And then I think it was 808 State came on, and of course I was a huge 808 State fan. And then Moby came on. I was a huge Moby fan. And then to end it up, it was Eat Static and then Kevin Saunderson. And that was like a blur. Unfortunately, I did some funny stuff that night and sat there watching the light show for most of that night. But man, that was, I don't even know how I found my. You ever go to a rave in those days? And it was so funny because you'd be a little inebriated or what have you, and just running into your friends was such a joyous moment because you felt like you were lost for like hours and hours. And I think at this time I was up in the stands just looking at the light show for probably a good 2 or 3 hours, because it was definitely from most of Eat Static through Kevin Saunderson at least, so at least 2 hours. And yeah, it's just funny in those days when you run into an old friend, or you run into your friends that you came with. It's always a funny thing. Here's that another one on that Trophy Records, and this was the Lopez, and this was just Emptiness and Fucked Up are the 2 tracks, and this is just kind of a little house record, nothing great on there. I picked it up because it was a Moby something, and I hadn't heard it until I picked it up, but it was okay. This is an interesting record. And then of course, Moby went to, I think Moby had some stuff on Mute, for sure, on Mute Records. This is a Nova Mute. This is one of his darkest techno EPs. The track is called Demons, and the other track is called Horses, I believe, right? Horses? Yeah, Horses. I remember the first time I heard this record. I had all the lights off and I turned it off, and I swear I was seeing like devils and aliens and stuff like that. It was this record is so dark and so eerie and so and that's kind of why I feel like this probably stopped Moby from doing drugs. This record right here. I think he stopped fucking with drugs when he did this record, because this record will make you see angels and will make you see devils, and that I think, or demons, I should say, not devils, because I mean the track is Horses. Of course, you guys know from the biblical. You guys may know the biblical reference in Horses, and then the other side is demons, and so you have good and bad, and it's. This is a trip, and they're long tracks too. They're like, I think, if I was to guess, it's been a while since I heard this. This is not a track you play lightly, or you play often. It's just very dark, very heavy record, very techno. If I remember correctly, there's like 16 minutes. It says this came out in 94. I thought it came out like 95 or 96, but 94. But yeah, this probably went from. Because before 94, he was still in the rave scene. Then he got 95, he's in the studio on Elektra. You know what I mean? So this probably steered him into not fucking with rave anymore. Or fucking with drugs anymore. And then you have, the period of... And then I'm going to kind of go through fast here, because this is the start of the change of Moby. So Animal Rights. So of course, and everybody heard this in 1997. There's a lot of good ambient songs on here, which is unfortunately overlooked because most of this is a rock album. But this is what started where he is for most of his career, making rock songs that have some electronic music in it. And it's not a bad song album. In fact, that's when I reached for my Revolver, which is the main single from this album. It is a really good track, and I used to play it a lot. I wasn't opposed to him playing rock music, but it's just Gone was the techno. I mean, he still has techno parts, but it's just the rave and the melodic is just kind of gone away. You know, gone is the innocent Moby that I grew up and followed so hard. You know, to that point. You know, and this kind of is a perfect example. You know, of his personality. So he's got a picture of everything is wrong, which is cool. You know, I mean that's you know, that's cool. I don't know if you put that in an album. It's kind of a personal thing, but you know, but that kind of has a little bit of his egotism on here. And it's got him like you know, with the bathrobe on and just chilling out, being hungover or whatever, right? But then you got something like this where you know you're sort of playing that. You're starting to play that sort of like popular rock and roll image that he had for a little bit, which kind of didn't work at all, thinking he was a superstar or something like that. You know, I don't know what that is, and that kind of goes to the ego of the picture of him posting a picture of his own poster on the billboard. You know, just the start of him thinking too much of himself. I don't know, but there's some really good ambient songs on here, and the rock and roll, but the other songs aren't bad. You know, Alone is on here, so Alone finally comes through on here. So Alone's on that. Bring Back Happiness, and then on here, and then on that compilation. So I thought it was from an album, but this also has Living, and Dead Sun's a really good ambient album. Come On Baby was not good. There's some good Old and Living, and there are some good songs in here that have guitars, and you know that have kind of that Hotel vibe. If you guys know the album Hotel, this kind of sounds like Hotel, a little bit more raw than Hotel. But if you like Hotel and you like this like Hotel. And I did like Hotel when it came out a lot more than some of his other albums. And just happened to, this is, I bought this in the store on a whim just because it said stop. And I was like, I bought this in 2002. It just said stop. And I was like, who just put stop on a record? So I bought it. And strangely enough, it's Go. It's some updated remixes of Go. I don't know. I have to remember who did that, but yeah. Then the blockbuster million seller Play came out, and just to go through the songs, I mean, the singles, Honey. I mean, a lot of it's interesting because you know he's obviously doing a lot of samples and there's a lot of vocal samples over these tracks, and they aren't bad. I mean, yeah, I could see them getting redundant and getting overplayed for sure, but they're not bad songs. It's just they're not good songs. I mean, they're not. I wouldn't even say they're not good songs. They are good songs in a way because you listen to them and you're like, oh yeah, it's cool, it's all right, you know, but they're just not the type of Moby songs that I like. Honey, not a big fan of. Find My Way, Find My Baby. I don't mind Porcelain. I think Porcelain's a good song. Of all the singles on Porcelain on Play, I thought Porcelain was the best one. Why Does My Heart Feel So Bad? It's okay. Southside, not a big fan of. I think Gwen Stefani's in Southside. Rushing's okay. Body Rock is okay. Natural Blues is okay. Some of the remixes are okay. Machete, I don't really remember. 7. Run On, I don't like. Down Slow. It's hard for me to remember some of these, but then you hear them and you're like, oh yeah. It's just because there's so many songs on here. When they're instrumental songs, they're hard to remember which one's which. But Machete, 7, Run On, Down Slow, If Things Were Perfect, Ever Loving, I remember thought being okay. Inside, Guitar, Flute and Strings is okay. The Sky Is Broken isn't bad. My Weakness, pretty good. Those last 4 are actually pretty good, you know. Not any bad songs by any means, but just kind of no techno, no trance, nothing deep. Just kind of all little kind of hymns that are. It's almost like he wrote Everything Is Now and then sort of did them in a pop version. And they're just not drawn out and expand upon or somber. They're just kind of like little hymns. It's okay. You know, and again, I'm buying everything still, Moby, hoping that there's some great remixes, right? My heart. Why does my heart feel so bad? I don't remember any remixes on here. And that's where things get really shitty. Is some of the remixers on here? ATB, Ferry Corsten, Subsonic Legacy. Just nothing to write home about. You know, I don't remember anything about these. Probably played them once and you know, said fuck off. Moby, Honey and Run On remixes. Again. I think there is a good B-side on here, if I remember correctly. Memory Gospel and is a good one, and I think the Honey remix by Westbomb is pretty good, or Kay Hardy. Mickey Finn, Aphrodite. One of those remixes is pretty good. Yeah, I don't remember. I thought I had 3 copies of. I thought I had 2, but there I don't. But I thought there was another B-side on Run Honey or Run On or Honey that was good. Anyway, here's a Body Rock. This one does have a good remix, and it's the Ray and Christian remix. If you know Body Rock and the Ray and Christian, it turns out to be a good, like, little kind of down-tempo groove. If you guys know, like, Ninja Tune Records or Pork Recordings or Fila Brasilia or Baby Mammoth or Bullet Nuts. Yeah, if you guys like that kind of, like, down-tempo sound, that was really popular during these days, like 99, then Ray and Christian mix is really good. If you guys know Kruder and Dorfmeister or Thievery Corporation, those are like the popular versions of what I was saying. Mighty Forest Black would be another good one. Some great down-tempo artists that are still... Maybe I'll have to do a video on some of my favorite down-tempo music of the late 90s. There's a lot of good stuff on there. And it's kind of tied to trip-hop, which is kind of like your Massive Attack, your Lamb, you know, Portishead and stuff like that. It's kind of like more urban, more tied to house music than the trip-hop, which is more tied to hip-hop. It's kind of in those veins, so like Compost Records is a good label for that. But Ray and Christian mix is really good. I can't really read, but is it Sunday and something else? One of these might be a good B-side. And then you have here's the Porcelain remixes. There is a good Porcelain remix on one of these. I think it's the Future Shock instrumental is good. For that one, on this Moby one, this one has the B-sides because this is more the single version. Flying Over the Dateline in Summer. Some good B-sides in here. So, if anything, at least you're not getting any good remixes for the most part on some of these ones, but they do have some good ambient tracks, and that's the only thing that really helped. That really, for me, really kept my fleeting interest in Moby alive. The spark was almost out. The flame was barely on for any Moby's music by 2000, and it was only because of these great versions like Natural Blues B-side, which is Whispering Wind. If you guys know, you know. Whispering Wind is amazing. I don't mind Natural Blues. It's probably one of the more catchy. Even though it can be a little annoying. Oh man, it can be one of the most annoying ones. It's got the Perfecto mix on here, which is Paulo Confold. I don't remember anything about these remixes. I remember one being okay, but I'm not sure if it's on here. But at least you have Whispering Wind. Thank God for that. Kind of moving on. So now it's like 2004, and he's feeling like he wants to do an electronic music and make sort of like a comeback of making techno like he used to, and puts it under the Voodoo Child, Baby Monkey. The title's Baby Monkey by Voodoo Child. And he succeeds here. These are 12 songs. And he succeeds here overall with making an early 90s sounding techno album. There's some good stuff on here. Excuse me. Light in Your Eyes and Electronics are really good. Take It Home is another one. Synthesizers is really good. There's a couple on here I'm sure that I like as well. Those are ones I remember offhand that I do like. But a fairly successful album of him making techno again. And I think if I remember reading correctly, he was out on tour, and I think that was probably in tour of his area tour, which he toured with like David Bowie, and I think it was even New Order, and I mean he was huge by 2004. I mean he's one of the most in demand producers and artists in electronic music ever at that time. And he was just on visited some clubs and felt like he could do a techno album again, and here's what he did, and it worked. There's some good stuff on there. I ended up buying the 2 singles from there, and I just mentioned them because it has them on here, which is Electronics and Light Is In Your Eyes. So here he is on V2 label, which is, if you know V2 label, this is like super popular electronic music on here. I would never follow V2 labels, but I just happened to buy the Moby on here. Take It Home in Strings. This is kind of the partner record of that. V2, horrible electronic label. But yeah, and then, a couple other ones he did around that period. Couple 10-inch records. These kind of came out at the same time. This one has Mulholland, and the other side's Bed. I think it's Mulholland that I really like. This one has Put the Headphones On, which is really good. And It's Okay, which I don't quite remember, but I do remember liking 2 of these 4. And here's kind of the new Moby Hotel, kind of Moby logo that he started. I'm not sure what the H is for. But, so pick those up. And then he kind of gets into his Hotel period, which I really like the Hotel album as a whole. This is the version with the... And I guess the H is for the hotel. I mean, it does look like a hotel kind of signature, and it has the H there. But Moby, the ambient hotel, the second record, really good. Really good. Live Forever is what I dedicated to my dad when he passed away. Live Forever. Love that track. Ariel's a really good one, too. Chord Sounds is really good. Homeward Angel. He's really kind of coming back to... This is probably his best album of 2000s, I would have to say. All in all. And that's saying a lot, considering there's no techno in here. You have a track like... here's one of the singles off it, Lift Me Up, which I think has a good B-side on it. Oh, Mulholland's on it, so Mulholland's from that record. But there's some good songs on here. Slipping Away, if you know that one's good. I think there's one on here that's very Joy Division. I think it's I Like It. Dream About Me, good. Don't necessarily like Spiders, but there's some catchy stuff on here. Lift Me Up, Beautiful, Raining Again. Yeah, There's some good tracks on here, and this kind of paved the way for the sound that he's still kind of doing in a way. And from there, it's kind of a grab bag. So here's this is I do have Last Night and Last Night Remix. This is 2008. I do like I Love to Move in Here. If you guys know that track from here, it's a cool sample. This is not a bad record. I do. In fact, if I probably sat down and compared this to the Baby Monkey by Voodoo Child, they're pretty close. This one's a little bit more geared towards New York house music than techno, but this is a good. This is 2008, so 2009. So this is a good. I don't think I've really kind of gotten into the remix CD. I think I got this recently, or not recently, but in the last 10 years. I really haven't got around to it yet, but I'm kind of. This is the first time I remember like reading the remixers, and I'm probably dreading who's on here, but I don't see any suspect names yet. Holy Ghost, I'm not really a fan of. Shapeshifters, Seamless, AC Slater. Who the fuck is AC Slater? So we'll see. Oh, we'll see. I mean, this is. If I like the original, hopefully the remix will be good, but I haven't got a chance to do that. Destroyed was the next best thing that I heard in 2000, along with Wait For Me, which I think is 2012, 2013. There's some good stuff on both these albums. It'd be hard for me to tell you the names of the tracks that I do like. I know I do like the single Wait For Me a lot, but I need to get more into listening to these again. I don't think I've ever heard Wait For Me all the way through. I want to say I bought this a couple of years ago, probably less than 2 or 3 years ago. I just filed it, and I didn't really get a chance to look at it yet. I do know this one fairly well, and I was really excited when this came out in 2010 because, again, I bought late last night, but it didn't. It's more of a dance album. This one's actually more in the vein of Play or the album After Play, which is also big. It's more in the vein of that, but it's actually more successful for me. Just not as straightforward and poppy. And so, yeah, I got to get to know these records a little bit better. And the only other thing I really bought from Moby is, the last thing I bought was All Visible Objects, which is more of an ambient one. I haven't, I remember being a little disappointed by this. I haven't got a chance to check into all the ambient music that he released. I think some of it was tied to Hotel, but he put out like 3 albums worth of ambient music. I do got to check that. I did listen to his new album that came out last month, and it has all these collaborations on it. Wasn't too jazzed about that one. I heard most of it. I did like a few songs off the 2018 album, which I can't remember the name of. That's kind of a long title, but I do feel like there's some possibilities there in the 2010s and newer. Obviously, Destroyed and Wait For Me, I do like some of. So, there's always be some stuff I like in his albums, and some of the stuff, a lot of stuff I don't like. I did get the 3-disc set of Hotel Ambient. I think this came out in 2014. Of course, it's more ambient side, so I was quick to pick up this. Yeah, this is a, in my opinion, well, I mean, it's probably, I do have to check out the other ambient stuff he's done, but this is the best ambient, probably, album he's done in the last 20 years, 25 years. Yeah, so that's all my Moby music. Yeah. But that's kind of my history with Moby. It's kind of been, there's a lot of years in there was a lot of disappointment. I mean, you're talking about Play, and then sort of liking 5 albums in the last 25 years and really not liking half of the album, half of the music on each album. And none of it is like the original techno that I fell in love with. Like if you listen to like Heaven or just kind of that moody techno, like Mobility and M4 and Permanent Green, and there's so many bass amines. So that, I mean that's a little bit more ravey, but there's a lot of good techno that was melodic. That it was just kind of like a beat, and it was still more ambient. And he does ambient now, but he doesn't necessarily a lot of times put a beat over it. That everything everything is or oh shit, the '97 album, the ambient one, End of Everything. That one is like what I would hope he would still be doing. It's just kind of like some chord progressions and keyboards and pianos in the background, and just like a nice beat over it, and it's kind of like some laid back kind of techno. I wish he kind of still did some of that. It's just some of the more mainstream stuff and just haven't been digging. And it's not so much he's getting into samples anymore. He seems like he's doing his own, for sure, kind of been doing his own style of music, but it just, I don't know, it just doesn't, excuse me, just doesn't really hit the same way. And but I respect what he's, his direction and stuff like that. I mean, he's in his 50s and probably early, almost 60 now, so I don't expect him to be doing rave music, or techno, but I would like to. I think it'd be cool if he pulled out some old keyboards and stuff, and then sort of did some warmer techno and just kind of, I mean, he always can do some great piano house tracks and stuff like that. Like, and they go good. But I like some moody dance music. Would be cool. I think he could do some. But his ambient will always be. Excuse me. His ambient music will always be liked by me. I mean, he's done so much ambient when you add up all the melodies. I mean, you can instantly recognize a Moby song if you know Moby. His chord progressions are. I mean, in some ways, he's done a lot of his chord progressions in other songs and in other songs, and it sounds familiar. But it's just they're so good. I don't think anybody's complaining that they might be a little bit more redundant, or a little bit maybe done before. But it is kind of a little bit of a love-hate relationship, because I just wish he could have done. It's kind of passed in the last 5, 10, 15 years, but there was a time there where I was just like, I would get so excited for a Moby album and then just be like, oh. You can see I didn't buy him. I didn't even buy the album after play. I was like, oh man, I'm not, I didn't buy any of the singles from it. I bought Hotel because Hotel had the ambient side, and I was pleasantly surprised by the other music on it, but not, fantastic, not like thrilled by it, but I did buy it when it came out. But then I bought Destroyed 5 years later, or late night, 3-4 years later, and so it was just, there was a lot of whatever, just kind of, and that's kind of thing is electronic music. When you're on the journey of finding electronic music, you'll notice a lot of these videos are periods of, I go through artists and, get really into them and then just kind of fall out of their music because a lot of artists in electronic music don't necessarily have the staying power or have, and it's sad too because I'm talking about the kinds of ones that I really do like, that are a little bit more hip, not talking like these veteran ones, but I'll hear a new artist and I might buy 3 or 4 or 5 of their first 5 records and really like them, and then they've kind of said what they've had to say, and they've kind of they maybe haven't progressed, and you just don't buy them anymore. But for that time, you really liked them. Some of that is like this. I really like the Moby 1990, 91 to 97. And there's some here and there. There's still some ambient stuff in there, but really not like what it was in the 90s, especially the early 90s. But so a lot of my love of his music comes from really from 3 to 5 years period, really. So, I mean, for me to be realistic and think that he's going to do music like he did 35 years ago, it's just, I guess it's me that's stuck in the rut and not necessarily him that's not doing what he's kind of got known for. But a lot of people feel like it kind of like left the electronic music scene or left the rave scene and just went and did popular and then didn't give back to the community or didn't do any DJing or anything like that or what have you. I did get the opportunity to buy some of his records, some of his personal records, in 2000. I think it was 2017 or 2018. He did this like auction, and he was selling a lot of these of his personal records. I don't think any of them were Moby that I bought, but I did make bids on them, and surprisingly, probably because nobody knew what the records were, there wasn't that much bids on them. I did probably pay 20 or 30% over what they on some of them, but I bought a good bunch. I think it was like 10 to 12 records I bought from him. I'll tell you the reason why I bought a few of them in a second, but I think only maybe like a third of them I paid a little bit over what I would normally pay for them, like in the 30 to 40 range. But for the most part, they were in the 10 to 15, 20 range each. But it was cool to get them from Moby, and then I already wanted them, and then I sort of looked into them, and I was like, oh, okay, I'd be interested to check that one out, because I do have some friends that will like that album or what have you. But there was like 4 records that he used. They were the actual record he used in his 1996 Mixmag CD, which I had at the time, which was also, there was a double Mixmag CD. It was Sven Vath and Moby was on the other side, and Moby had I think Sven Vath was like 5 or 6 songs, and then Moby's was like 7 or 8, and there was like 3 or 4 tracks from that mix that I actually bought the record from. So now I have the actual record that Moby mixed in that special mix CD that he used in '96, and I always thought that was something worth bidding on. And so I think that's kind of a cool tie that I have something of Moby's that was used in a mix that I really liked, and it was those special tracks that are my favorite tracks in those mix. So that's kind of cool. So that was kind of special. To see his writing on some of the records was cool. Like there's an EX record in there. If you guys know the experimental label, it was like I think it was EX5. That was a really strong experimental label, which had a lot of good music on it, like Damon Wild and I can't remember that big horn track that was on there. But yeah, Experimental had some good techno and trance on that label too, but also some acid on there. And yeah, it's just cool to have some of Moby's writing on some of the covers and the sleeves, and I think he actually wrote on a few of the records, so it's cool to have his handwriting on a few of the records. That's kind of a nice tie to have to purchase a famous person's records like that he actually used in a mix. I was surprised how cheap I got that for. I would think that Moby fans would have gone crazy over some of those records, but I'm sure there was some records that did go for a lot of money. I do need to buy Ambient on vinyl. I do definitely need to buy that on vinyl, and I gotta go through and Moby's the type of artist where what I'll do is, because I just started last month and downloading some music. It's the stuff I'm downloading is stuff that I would buy. If I still like the music, I'm gonna buy it. But there's some of the Moby stuff, the stuff that I am okay with and I do like, and I'm not like, and I don't want to buy the CD. I will probably make a couple CDRs of, and just so I can have the physical and play them in my car and actually hear the Moby stuff that I do like from the past 15 or 20 years from his post-Hotel albums. And just so I kind of have feel like I'm caught up on him and I'm not missing anything because I don't want to miss any of his ambient stuff. And I'm sure there's a few other songs that I'll like in there. But yeah, it's my Moby video. Wow, 2 hours talking about Moby. I knew this would be a long video. I'm sorry. Not like anybody's going to stick around and watch 2 hours me talk about Moby for 2 hours, but he's certainly an important artist in my history, and I did get a chance to write him a letter back in 1995, and at the time, my girlfriend, 96, it was 95, 96? Oh, felt bad remembering that, 96. My girlfriend at the time, she had a stillborn, and I was feeling kind of obviously down about that and going all through that, and having to go through the having to go through the hospital, and seeing my girlfriend at the time giving a stillborn and spending the night in a hospital room was kind of a somber event, and seeing how my family reacted the next day and how sad everybody was, and it was a trying time, and Moby's music kind of got me through that period in a lot of ways, and his somber music kind of helped me spiritually with that, going through that time. And I wrote him a letter letting him know that his music was important to me, and I was thankful that that his music helped me, kind of deal in his music, and it kind of helped me deal with that time. And so I just wanted to thank him for that. And I'm not sure what else I wrote to him, but I'm sure I told him my favorite song was Heaven. So if he did make it to heaven, I would think of Moby and that song and him. So in the way, I do feel tied to Moby in a different level because of those music, and of course my dad liking Moby as well. Always had a tie to me, spiritually and emotionally. So I mean, Moby's always, and that's why I've always been really hard on Moby in a lot of ways, because I was such a champion of his, and I liked his music so much that I felt disappointed then, and I felt that he kind of, like I said earlier, he kind of went popular and kind of left the electronic music fans to kind of like he didn't know where he came from, or appreciate where he came from, or gave back, and just kind of in a way made a mockery of him representing electronic music, and getting into a fight with Eminem, and Eminem saying nobody listens to techno, from saying that about Moby, which I'll go down and saying that's one of the most iconic, ironic, and step his foot in a pile of shit one could ever say, because look how big techno is now. And even though Eminem sells a shitload of records, the techno scene and electronic music scene will trump Eminem, his career, tenfold when all things are said and done. But yeah, so that's kind of my history with Moby, and kind of have some up and down feelings about him. But I just kind of wish that he would do some music that would kind of inspire some of his especially his remixes and his B-sides, and from those early days. It's just amazing stuff. But yeah, that's my video on Moby. Thanks for listening. I'm curious, what are your 3 favorite Moby albums and your 5 favorite Moby related tracks? For me, it would be really hard to give 5. I'd have to go with Heaven, My Beautiful Blue Skies. This is too hard. The other 3 are too hard. Excuse me. I have to think of that through. I don't want to do that lightly. Because the thing with Moby is there's a lot of B-sides, and there's a lot of stuff that I forget. But certainly Heaven and My Beautiful Blue Skies are two of the top five. So curious, can you do a top five on Moby stuff? I'd be curious to know. And feel free to post them below and your experience of Moby and what you like and maybe don't like about his music and what your opinions on my thoughts about his career is. I'd be curious if you want to have a conversation about that. I'd be open to it. Thanks so much, and I really appreciate you watching. If you really did watch 120, 125 minutes of Moby talk. All right, thanks a lot. Have a good day.